In this unpredictable world, disasters can strike without warning. One such catastrophic event is a nuclear disaster. If you think about it, the sheer magnitude of a nuclear disaster is terrifying. The immediate blast is devastating, yes, but the residual effects, the nuclear fallout, can be equally, if not more, deadly. It's invisible, silent, but its impact on our health and the environment can be profound and long-lasting. We're talking about radiation sickness, genetic mutations, and environmental contamination. Not exactly a walk in the park, right? But here's the thing, as ominous as it sounds, we're not entirely helpless. There are steps we can take, measures we can implement, to ensure our survival in the face of such a catastrophe. It all boils down to one word: preparedness. Preparedness in this context is more than just knowing what to do in the event of a nuclear disaster. It's about equipping ourselves with the right tools and knowledge to navigate through the crisis. It's about knowing what to expect, understanding the risks, and taking proactive steps to mitigate those risks. Think of it as a two-pronged approach. On one hand, we have the emergency plan. This is your roadmap, your guide to safety. It includes identifying safe shelter locations in your home and nearby, establishing a communication plan, and designating a meeting point. It's about knowing where to go, what to do, and how to stay connected with your loved ones. On the other hand, we have the survival kit. This is your lifeline, your survival toolbox. It has everything you need to survive for at least 2 weeks: food, water, medical supplies, and protective gear. It's about ensuring you have the essentials to sustain yourself and your family until help arrives. And let's not forget about staying informed. Knowledge, after all, is power. Subscribing to local and national emergency alert systems, educating yourself on the signs of radiation exposure and nuclear fallout, these are crucial aspects of preparedness. So, whether you're a survivalist or just someone who believes in being ready for anything, understanding the importance of preparedness in the face of a nuclear disaster is crucial. There's a saying, hope for the best but prepare for the worst. Let's make that our mantra. Remember, the key to survival is preparedness. So, how do we prepare for such a disaster? Preparation is key when it comes to survival, especially in the face of a nuclear disaster. The first step, creating an emergency plan. This involves identifying safe shelter locations within your home and in the surrounding areas. A basement or a central room without windows would be ideal. If you're caught outdoors, a ditch or a low-lying area can offer some protection. Your emergency plan should also include a communication strategy. In a disaster scenario, regular means of communication may be disrupted. Establish a meeting point where your family or group can regroup if separated. Having a plan in place not only ensures everyone knows what to do, but it also minimizes panic in a high-stress situation. Next, build an emergency kit. This is your survival toolbox. It should include at least a 2-week supply of non-perishable food and water. Aim for 1 gallon of water per person per day. Remember, this water is for drinking as well as hygiene purposes. Your kit should also contain medical supplies. This includes a basic first aid kit, any necessary prescription medications, and potassium iodide tablets. These tablets can protect your thyroid from radiation, but remember, they should only be taken on the advice of public health officials. Don't forget about protective gear. This includes N95 masks, gloves, and goggles to protect against radioactive dust. Plastic sheeting and duct tape can be used to seal your shelter and prevent contaminated air from entering. Finally, stay informed. Subscribe to local and national emergency alert systems. These will provide critical, real-time updates during a crisis. It's also beneficial to educate yourself on the signs of radiation exposure and nuclear fallout. Knowledge truly is power in these situations. Remember, the goal here is not to scare, but to prepare. The reality is, nuclear disasters are a low-probability event. But like any potential danger, being prepared can make a world of difference. It's about equipping yourself with the tools and knowledge to navigate a challenging situation. So create that emergency plan. Build your emergency kit. Stay informed. Being prepared isn't just about surviving a nuclear disaster. It's about resilience in the face of any crisis. Being informed and equipped can help you react swiftly and efficiently. And that, friends, is the key to survival. In the unfortunate event of a nuclear disaster, your immediate actions can make a huge difference. If a nuclear disaster strikes, the first thing you need to do is seek immediate shelter. If you're indoors, the best protection is in a basement or a central room without windows. As much as possible, avoid exterior walls and roofs. These areas are more susceptible to radiation exposure. Now, what if you're outdoors and can't access indoor shelter immediately? In such a case, look for a ditch or a low area and lie flat in it. Cover your head and any exposed skin. While this is not ideal, it can offer some level of protection from the initial blast and fallout. Next, you need to shield yourself. Think of it as DST: distance, shielding, and time. First, distance. The further you are from the blast or fallout area, the better. If it's safe to move, try to get as far away as you can from the source of radiation. Second, shielding. This is all about putting heavy, dense materials between you and the radiation. Concrete, earth, or even a thick wall can help protect you. The more material you can put between you and the radiation, the better. Third, time. Limit your exposure time to radiation. Stay sheltered for at least 24 hours unless directed otherwise by local authorities. The most dangerous radioactive particles are those that decay quickly, so the longer you can stay sheltered, the safer you'll be. Now that you've found shelter and shielded yourself, it's crucial to seal your shelter. Here, the goal is to prevent any contaminated air from getting in. Close and lock all windows and doors. Seal any gaps with duct tape and plastic sheeting. Turn off air conditioners, heaters, and other ventilation systems. These systems can pull in contaminated air from the outside and spread it throughout your shelter. These immediate actions can seem daunting, but remember, every second counts during a nuclear disaster. Your ability to act swiftly and intelligently can significantly reduce your exposure to radiation. This could mean the difference between life and death in a nuclear disaster. Keep in mind that these are general guidelines. Every nuclear disaster is different, and the appropriate response can vary depending on the specific circumstances. Always follow the instructions of local authorities and stay updated with reliable news sources. And remember, preparation is key. The more you prepare ahead of time, the better equipped you'll be to handle a nuclear disaster if it ever occurs. Acting quickly and smartly can significantly reduce your radiation exposure. After the initial blast, your actions should focus on reducing further exposure and decontamination. In the immediate aftermath of a nuclear disaster, the most crucial action is to stay indoors. The indoors act as a barrier between you and the radioactive particles that are swirling in the air outside. You should remain inside for at least 24 hours following the blast. This allows time for the radiation levels to decrease significantly. During this time, use a battery-powered radio to stay informed about official updates and instructions. Remember, these instructions are your lifeline, guiding you on when it's safe to leave your shelter or when to stay put. Now let's talk about decontamination. If you or your pets were outside during the blast, it's vital to remove the radioactive dust as soon as possible. Start by carefully removing your clothing. The majority of radioactive material can be removed from your body by taking off your clothes. Place these potentially contaminated clothes in a bag and seal it. This bag should be placed as far away from humans and animals as possible. Next, it's time for a shower. Using lukewarm water and soap, wash your entire body thoroughly. It's essential to avoid using conditioner, as it can cause radioactive material to stick to your hair instead of rinsing it away. While showering, be gentle to avoid breaking the skin, which could allow radioactive materials to enter your body. Give your pets a good wash as well using soap and lukewarm water. After decontamination, you need to be cautious about your food and water intake. Eating or drinking contaminated supplies could introduce radioactive material into your body. Therefore, you should only use food and water that were sealed at the time of the blast. If you are unsure about the safety of your water, make sure to boil it for at least 1 minute before drinking or using it for cooking. These actions may seem simple, but they are incredibly important. Each step you take towards reducing your exposure and decontaminating yourself and your surroundings decreases your overall radiation dose. This dose reduction could mean the difference between health and sickness, or even life and death in the aftermath of a nuclear disaster. Remember, the key to surviving a nuclear disaster is preparedness, quick action, and informed decision-making. Your actions during the first few hours can significantly impact your overall radiation dose, and thus, your health and survival. Every step you take can help minimize your radiation dose. The aftermath of a nuclear disaster requires careful health monitoring and environmental cleanup. It's not just about surviving the immediate event, it's about navigating the long-term effects and rebuilding your life and community. Firstly, let's talk about health monitoring. After exposure to a nuclear event, there are certain symptoms to watch for. These can include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and skin burns. These symptoms might indicate radiation sickness, a serious condition that requires immediate medical attention. Even if you're feeling fine, scheduling regular health checkups is crucial. Radiation can have long-term effects on the body, and regular monitoring can help identify and treat these issues early. Beyond personal health, there's the health of your environment. A nuclear event can leave your home and surrounding area contaminated with radioactive material. This isn't something you can clean up with a mop and bucket. You'll need to follow official guidelines for decontamination. This might include certain cleaning procedures, the use of specific products, or even the removal of contaminated soil or materials. Be sure to dispose of these materials according to local regulations. Safety is paramount in these efforts, but you're not alone in this. A nuclear disaster affects entire communities, not just individuals. This is where the power of community support comes into play. Staying connected with your neighbors and community members is essential. They're going through the same challenges you are, and together, you can support each other through this difficult time. Participating in community efforts to rebuild and restore affected areas is a key part of recovery. This might mean volunteering to help clean up shared spaces, contributing to local food banks, or even just lending a sympathetic ear to a neighbor in need. These actions not only help your community recover, but they also help foster a sense of hope and resilience. Remember, it's often in the face of adversity that we discover our true strength. In the aftermath of a nuclear disaster, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and uncertain. But with careful health monitoring, adherence to environmental cleanup guidelines, and a strong community support system, you can navigate this challenging time. Remember, recovery is a long-term process that requires patience and resilience. It's not about getting back to normal overnight, but rather about taking small, steady steps towards healing and rebuilding. In the wake of a nuclear disaster, survival is not just about enduring the event, but about thriving in the aftermath. Remember, recovery is a long-term process that requires patience and resilience. Surviving a nuclear disaster is a daunting task, but not impossible. We've walked through the essential steps, from preparation and immediate actions to short-term and long-term measures to be taken post-disaster. Remember, the key to survival is preparedness. Create an emergency plan, build a robust emergency kit, and keep yourself informed. In the event of a disaster, seek immediate shelter, shield yourself, and seal your shelter. Post-disaster, stay indoors, decontaminate carefully, and avoid contaminated food and water. Monitor your health vigilantly and participate in environmental cleanup and community support activities. Each of these steps, when taken seriously, can significantly increase your chances of survival. Remember, the goal isn't just to survive, but to thrive and help rebuild. If you found this guide helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. Stay safe and prepared.